everybody, Penny here. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are making super easy cinnamon buns. And the reason they're super easy is because we're cheating with the dough. So we're going to use puff pastry instead of making dough. So I just have a selection brand. You could use no name brand, or you could go ahead and get, Tender Flake or whatever your favorite brand is. And in this box there's two pastries. I am going to do both, but I'm only going to show you one because you don't need me to do it twice for you. And then we're going to bake them in the oven in a roughly 9 by 13 pan, and it's been greased already. And I have the board floured, and I have one package of the puff pastry already opened and laid out on the board. But first we're going to make our paste. So I have a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and we're going to have a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and we're going to have 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and I'm also going to put in 1 teaspoon of vanilla because I really like vanilla, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So we're just going to give that a quick stir, and because the butter is warm, it's just going to melt the sugar right into it. And so there you go. See? And we are going to brush that. Oops. Sorry. We're going to brush that onto the pastry once our pastry is all rolled out. So we're going to take a little tiny bit of flour, and we're going to flour our rolling pin, and we're just going to flatten out our puff pastry a little bit more because I want to get a few more little cinnamon rolls out of here than you would if you didn't roll it out. And we want it to be a rectangle, so we want it to be longer than it is wide. And that looks pretty good. So excuse me 1 second, I got to get my brush. Sorry about that. Now if you don't have a brush at home, you could use your fingers if you want to. You could use a spoon to dot it all over, and then very, very gently, spread it around. But I have a silicone brush which works very, very nicely. So we're going to take roughly half of this mixture. There we go. And I'm going to brush it all around. And don't be afraid to not push on the pastry per se, but you need to be able to spread it. So don't be afraid to do what you need to do. Okay. And I am going to use all of that mixture on this one, and we shall make up more mixture for the next one. Now at this point, once you have this all spread, you could sprinkle on some chopped nuts, some walnuts, pecans, almonds, pretty much whatever you like. You could also spread on some, that's the oven, it's been preheated to 375. You could also spread on some raisins or some currants, pretty much anything that you like that would go along with the cinnamon. Okie dokie. Now that looks good. That was my fault earlier. The recipe I was reading was for 1 package of cinnamon rolls, but I do have 2 pastries, so that makes sense that I will have to make some more cinnamon. Oh, yummy. Some more cinnamon paste. So once you have that spread, put a little bit of flour on your fingers, And we're going to roll it in. And you want to do that fairly tightly. You don't want any air pockets in there, so to speak. But it's quite easy. Once you get it going, it's quite easy. And if you forget to flour your board, your dough's going to stick. So don't forget to flour your board, okay? And you just keep going back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. There we go. And you want to make sure you roll over the seam and press just a little bit to make sure that your seam sticks. Okay, now we're going to grab a knife. And you want a sharp knife for this, good sharp knife. And the very ends, there's hardly any cinnamon or anything on there anyway, so I'm just going to take those off. Now, so you want to take your roll and cut it in half. Take that, cut it in half. Take that and cut it in threes, roughly. And you want them to be about the same size. So put this one in half, and then this one in thirds, and this one in thirds. Okie dokie. Now we're going to put them in our little greased pan. And you want to leave a little bit of room in between each one, because they are going to expand in the pan. So I've got 4 along the bottom. So we'll just keep with that pattern. And I'm not looking to fill the pan up because I do have that second roll, remember? Now, if you don't have a square pan like this one, you could easily use a round cake pan. So you put one in the middle, and then you just keep going around and around until you have your pan filled up. Okay, so that has given me 3, 6, 12. And now I'm going to do the other pastry for another 12. And then we're going to put them in the oven. They're going to stay in the oven for between 20 to 25 minutes at 375. So check it at 20, and if they're nice and golden brown, they can come out. Then we're going to put some icing on them. So I'm going to do the second one. I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'll meet you back right here. Hi everybody, back again. So our super easy cinnamon rolls are done. And as you can see, there's a lot of the cinnamon paste has kind of melted down and covered the bottom and made some ooey gooey goodness. But puff pastry, unlike the regular dough that you normally make with cinnamon rolls, puffs out. So they're not very high, but they are nice and gooey and whatnot. But the best thing about using the puff pastry, again, is because it's super easy. With the dough that you need to make proper cinnamon rolls or sticky buns, you have to make it. It involves yeast. You have to knead it. Then you have to let it rise. Then you have to punch it down. Then you have to make your cinnamon rolls. Then you have to let it rise again. And then you finally get to bake them. So you kind of got to start those pretty early in the day if you want to have them for dessert or a treat after supper. Whereas these ones, you take your puff pastry out, leave it out for 15 minutes or so that it's thawed enough to be able to open it up. And then like we did, you roll it out, you put in your paste, your cinnamon, and your brown sugar and so on, roll them up, put them in your pan, bake them, and these are in the oven for 25 minutes. So now we're going to make a glaze, or like an icing, to pour over the top. Okay, so in this bowl, I have 1 cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of milk. And I'm going to add, the recipe calls for half a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to put in a full one. Because again, I like vanilla. Okie dokie. And then you just keep whisking and whisking and whisking and whisking. And that is a little thick for my liking. So I'm going to add just a little bit more milk. See, it's actually quite thick. So I'm just going to add another drop of milk, maybe half a tablespoon, but certainly not very much. There we go. Now, that little bit of milk makes a huge difference. So now we get to drizzle. So we can just drizzle, drizzle, drizzle all over the place. Drizzle, drizzle, drizzle. You could use a spoon. You don't have to use a whisk. You could even put it in a freezer bag if you wanted to do a particular pattern, and just cut a hole in the corner of the freezer baggie once you get all your glaze in there, and gently squeeze the bag, and the glaze would come out just like you were icing a cake, trying to decorate a cake. Oh my gosh, these look good. Barry's gonna be so happy. Alrighty. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Super easy cinnamon buns. I hope you give it a go. Enjoy. Bye.